Well, here we are. I just had my lunch. I had some fish and some sort of weird red goo. It was kind of semolinery. Semolinery? Is that a word? Oh, snood. And yeah, we're just getting our bits and bobs together. These are the bikes. So this is the Street Cup. I'm on the black one. Quite fancy the yellow one, but you know, it's not like I'm a drama queen or anything. Looks pretty cool. So let's get on and ride it. Your camera's upside down.
So Chris, where have you been?
I've been in Seville.
Sevilla.
Seville. It's not the Jimmy Seville. It's just Seville.
Not Savile Road.
No.
No.
Yeah, been in ice cold Seville on a Triumph. 2 launches in one. So that was the Street Cup and the Street Scrambler. So this is both of those bikes are part of the Street range.
Yes.
So, which was started off last year by the Street Twin. So fundamentally, they're the same bikes, but with various little changes to adapt for the environment.
Sure. So what are we talking about first then?
Well, the first one was the Street Cup.
I think that is my favourite looking Triumph at the moment.
It does look
It
good.
does look amazing.
It does look good. And, I'm not particularly, in the past, I haven't really I've gone, it's never really floated my boat.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, it does look one of the best of all of this modern retro stuff that's going on. It looks the most authentic.
Yeah.
And actually, it rides pretty well. Got to say. Yeah, got to say.
So I'm guessing it is the same. It's the same engine and the same sort of chassis base as the Street Twin and the T100, T120, that sort of thing.
The Scrambler, for example, has got slight frame changes, but that's not any of these the handling or the stiffness, etc. It's just to do with how you mount the separate seats and bits and bobs on it. But fundamentally, they're the same.
Yeah, they're not light bikes, are they?
No,
So
I didn't notice it.
The T100, you don't really notice it.
No.
But then when you override it and make a mistake or over corner it and ride like a bit of a Gareth,
Yes.
then you start to feel it. But I mean, I guess it handles alright, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's coffee machine. He wants. Yeah. Okay.
Shut up. So does it ride as good as it looks?
Not far off, actually.
Yeah.
Got to say, I was expecting it to be pretty ropey. That's no poor reflection of it. It's just the nature of the bike. It's twin shock, old school, kind of spindly forks, and once you're on the bike, and to be fair, most of them are going to live in the city, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's just the nature of what the bike is. And around the town, it was fine. Actually, felt quite damped and fairly plush around town.
Yeah.
It easily handles asphalt changes, the speed bumps, and general potholes and shittery that's on the roads. But then, as we went out of town a bit more, we found there was this. Well, we didn't find it; it was part of the ride. But this road was just phenomenal, and we'll show some shots now. And as it started getting twistier and ups, downs, rises, crests, bottoming out, it started to really become a fun thing to ride. And it was, you could easily ride to the limit of that bike without anything super naked or sports oriented. The road was.
It gets dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you barely make it out first gear or whatever. But this, you're pinning the throttle, bang bang through the gears and really using everything that bike would give. And that is a very rewarding experience. Very rewarding experience.
I mean, it's not a race bike, but this is still fun. Its inadequacies almost add to the enjoyment of it. It's that extra thing in your brain of, You know, the brakes aren't that great, the suspension's a bit wallowy, and it all adds to kind of the fun. And I appreciate that, you know. And ultimately that's what we all ride bikes for, isn't it? To have a bit of fun.
I mean, yeah, the suspension is not. It does suffer at those high speeds. Yeah, it's got that kind of wallowy.
Yeah.
The Street Cup actually. We'll move on to the Scrambler. The Street Cup did feel a little bit unstable at times, even over like camber changes on the road, like white lines. It would be a bit twitchy.
Shimmy.
Yeah, a bit of this kind of sputtering sort of shimmy. But then when you're on it, it almost adds a bit of flavour to the ride. So, yes, you could say that's a negative of its handling, but it doesn't affect the overall experience of riding it because it gives you that thrill, which you're not going to get at 50 mile an hour on a sports bike.
So I'm guessing with its budget components, relatively budget components, I'm looking at that front disc brake and just the one and thinking the T100 needed it, so the Street Cup,
absolutely, that
being a bit sportier, is going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the biggest thing that they could have changed. Really, is put twin discs on the front. It would stop you, but at the end of the day, if you can do 100 mile an hour on that bike, which I'm pretty sure you can, you're going to need to stop it.
You want to slow a quarter of a ton of metal. Yeah.
Yeah, and the extra weight behind it. The brakes were again a little bit sketchy, but in some ways it kind of almost added to the experience again because you've got to make sure as a rider you're travelling the appropriate speed to be able to stop, which you should do anyway, but you know, it adds that extra bit of adrenaline.
I guess, going on what you're saying, the making this whole package, this modern retro package, a bit more retro than modern. Obviously, it's got a 2017 number plate, and it's got all the sort of mod cons, traction control, that sort of thing. But yet, Triumph have engineered this sort of old school gearbox in, which is the same as the T100, same as that sort of range, which is quite agriculture, isn't it? You know, you certainly know when it's going to be changed. You know, when you're changing into gear.
I didn't particularly like the gearbox, I've got to say. It's not.
But you're a tart.
I am a tart, and I'm used to riding slicker machines. So again, it's not as if it takes away anything from the bike, because not many people who ride that bike are going to do clutchless shifting on full gas, which is what we would do it like, bang, bang, bang. But it does definitely have an absolute click to the gearbox. You know, it's in gear, it's in gear, it's in gear, which at lower speeds, like bobbing around town, it's something manual and nice to do, which modern bikes, you don't really have that. One point about, again, going back to the brakes, is on the Street Cup, you cannot turn ABS off.
Okay.
So, no skids into cafes, which is...
Fucking Euro 4, isn't it?
I know. I wouldn't mind if they could turn rear ABS off.
Yeah.
Because front ABS, it's not a track bike, you're never going to need to turn it off. But rear, it's always nice to have a little skid, isn't it?
Sounds quite nice, actually. It sounds quite throaty and I wouldn't say aggressive. It sounds quite beefy. It sounds quite sirloin. It's not a full filet mignon. Perhaps it's a rump. In fact, it's definitely a rump.
I mean, engine-wise, it's that 900 high torque motor, isn't it? I mean,
54 brake horsepower, I think.
Yeah, it's never gonna, I quote, take a todger off.
No,
but it's, you know, all the power is just at the bottom, isn't it?
It's fun. It's a fun motor, and only a 5-speed as well. So it's a fun motor for just going out, having a blast with your mates, enjoying it, parking up, and looking cool.
At your bike, exactly.
And looking cool.
And let's be honest, like as we were saying with the Scrambler and the Desert Sled, everything. Also, this sector is all about looks, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if these bikes are going to be sold on their looks, not our reviews or other people's reviews, it's going to be
the look and ultimately what that individual wants out of a bike. Like they may want a slightly more robust, bigger bike, and you'd get an R9T.
Yeah.
Or you'd get the little Triumph because it is the most authentic, I believe, of the modern retros. The Triumph brand seems to have more heritage.
Oh, definitely.
Perceptible heritage than most.
Definitely. And they're playing on that big time.
Yeah.
Which kind of, you can't really blame them. But at the same time, us and many are missing out on the sports bikes and the Daytonas and the superbikes. But with Moto 2 and the new
They've
Street
got to.
Triple being released and that sort of thing, there's going to be, trust me, there will be a new Daytona next year.
There's got to be.
Or the year after that, but there definitely will be.
Yeah, got to be. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. Ground clearance is very good as well.
Yes.
Interestingly, like no peg scraping on that one. Whereas the Scrambler, which we'll move on to now, was pegs down everywhere, even though that's an actually higher chassis.
But the pegs are lower?
Well, they're different. They've
Yes.
got kind of adventure-y type, spiky pegs.
Pegs away! We basically just left everyone else behind now, I think, and we're just sodding off. Oh, this is brilliant. This is such good fun. Because it's not like superbike lean angles and shit, it just feels good. I mean, it's definitely capable. It's definitely capable of going around corners pretty well. Of course, there's other bikes that are better than it, but of this style of bike, this feels pretty good.
So what are the other differences between the Scrambler and the Street Cup?
It's got a 19-inch front wheel.
Okay.
So it pulls that front up a bit, so the riding position is a bit taller. It's got a higher bar, so it's not as kind of cafe'd as the other one.
Yeah.
I think the rear shock has got another 20 mil of travel or something,
Yeah.
or it's jacked up a bit more there. And I mean, the rear subframe was modified a bit. Nothing structural to do with how it handles or how it feels. It's just because you can put different seats. It's got a bench seat, or you can put a single front seat, and then they've got this little kind of rack thing,
Yes,
which is
that's
quite
right.
cool. So
Yeah.
you can put your Spider-Man lunchbox on that.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that similarities with their engine. There's the engine's exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Gearbox
Gearbox is that the same?
Yeah. So the similarities end at the chassis, and is it that much different to ride?
I actually much preferred the Scrambler.
Really?
I've got to say.
Pourquoi?
It felt. I mean, I know I'm a large-framed gentleman, but it did feel just more of a substantial motorcycle, and it felt less of a little toy like the Street Cup.
Like the BMW R90 and R90 Scrambler.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. It just felt a bit more roomy. It felt the wider bars gave it much more of a flickable, enjoyable, like in, out, up, round, over the curves. Curves, bends, corners, and that added to the enjoyment level for me. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to track race or race hard a Street Cup. So it felt like the Scrambler could turn quicker, and it just felt more easy to handle. But yeah, overall, I prefer the Scrambler, and you can turn ABS off. So
Deal clincher.
Skids. And then we did one section. So the road section was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. I mean, it was -1 at 9 a.m. in Seville, which is the hottest place in Europe, apparently.
Hottest city in Europe.
Hottest city in Europe, and there was frost on the guardrails. So you were kind of looking at this, like, oh god, I didn't realise. But then it warmed up a little bit, and we did all the bits to camera, and it was super enjoyable. And your mate Pete was there, and we just kind of left the rest of the guys, just sodded off up this beautiful road. So overall Scrambler I felt more comfortable on. The seat was way more comfortable as well.
It looks comfier.
Yes, so much more. I mean, a day on the Street Cup, my body did start hurting on the way home. And then, after the road section, we did a little sort of fire road, off-road section, which was
cool.
It was a good laugh.
Yeah.
It was a good laugh. We had to go down this kind of thing through a ford and like splash, do stuff. Again, splashing. It was probably 3 degrees at that point, so we had to ride through a river and
get wet
with jeans and bloody ding-dongs on.
They're out on the game. Looking for some hot bikers. Bom ba bom ba bom ba bom ba bom bom bom. Okay. A little bit more of a rough surface. So this road surface is a bit like sort of my country lanes. And for this type of environment, this bike is very good. It's comfortable. The suspension's not, the best in the world, but it does the job for the price point. This bike sits right in the middle across all sorts of ranges of motorcycles, so it is probably one of the most waffly versatile bikes you can get. Okay, right, I think we've got to go through a bloody river now.
But again, it actually performed way better than I thought it would. Way better. It felt really confident and sure-footed. Again, the tyres helped, but you know they're not an off-road tyre. No. It's a hybrid touring tyre, effectively.
Same as the Ducati's Scrambler Desert Slam. That sort of.
Yeah, I think they're probably slightly more road biased than those.
Okay.
But yeah, it just felt great, and the power was manageable enough to be able to just bang it on and get a little bit of a shimmy on, and you know, it almost. I don't think there's any sort of flywheel changes within the engine, but it did feel a more relaxed throttle than the Street Cut, which was odd. But and of course, the Scrambler also had the double ding
stackers,
dong
mate. That
exhaust pipes out the back.
That makes it for me.
And actually, both bikes, they both sounded pretty good, considering it's only like a 54 brake motor with stock cans on.
Yeah.
They actually sounded pretty deep, pretty throaty for what it is. And again, another added bonus of those exhausts. In the cold, I was warming my leg on it quite nicely. On a hot sunny day in Seville, it may be a different story.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, much prefer the Scrambler. Altogether, I enjoyed it. It was a triumph. I mean, in the morning was a bit of a scramble.
Oh, stop it.
But then I had my cup.